Back at the Costa del Oulton Park, green flag waves to release the cars for the second Protar Motorsport Ginetta GT5 Challenge race of the day. The grid based on the results of race 1, which only seems like 5 minutes ago that it finished. It's a very rapid turnaround for the Ginetta Brigade, most of which, thankfully, should be there, because apart from a couple of cars in the gravel earlier on in the day, they all managed to escape pretty much unscathed, bar one that never got into the race because it was very definitely scathed in qualifying this morning. Shane Stoney eventually battled his way through to win the opening race with a very good setup for what were probably greasy rather than full wet conditions. He will go from pole position this time, with race 1 rival James Kellett lining up alongside in the second row of the grid, being Charlie Digby, and a rather slow starting Max Bird, who had qualified on the front row for the first race and made a right porridge at the start and was fourth by the first corner. He's a man with a point to prove. Track conditions a little bit better, as in they're less horrible than they were earlier on in the day. It's still quite treacherous out there. Let's see whether this next 15-minute stanza for the Ginettas is going to be a double for Shane Stoney. David Addison and Martin Haven trackside. And so, in what have they had, about 45 minutes or so, Martin, between races, any tweaks had better have worked for them?
Well, anything more than a damp sponge was definitely under time pressure. Lots of the cars haven't even had a wash down, so they're still covered in the filth from race 1. There appears to be a bit more filth on the Shell Oils hairpin from an intervening event as well. But the man who won the first race, Shane Stoney, started fourth on the grid, but he had his best time disallowed in qualifying, so perhaps that was not so much of a surprise that he jumped straight away into the lead battle, as he said, after James Kellett held him off most of the race. It was only 2 laps from home that Stoney managed to get in front, but then he was romping away clear. What did he win by in the end? 2 or 3 seconds? 3.8 seconds, yeah, so it's almost 2 seconds a lap in terms of speed advantage, which should mean that he clears off into the middle distance. Now, I don't think that anybody is going to sluice chicks for this. I think they're all going to sluice wets instead. So there's no question of any tyre choices coming into the figuring here, because everybody will be on wet weather tyres. It's still far too wet and also far too cold and wet. If it was a little warmer day, like a lot warmer, then that might be drying a lot quicker than it is. But the circuit is moderately less greasy compared to moderately still quite greasy offline. So overtaking is going to be as difficult as it was in race 1, I think.
So Shane Stoney, runner-up in the championship last year, starts from pole position. James Kellett back into Ginetta racing, having had a season away, former front-runner in juniors, lining up with him at the front. And we saw in the earlier race, as the track became greasy, not wet, that Shane Stoney's car was that with a far better setup. So can James Kellett fight back? His car being run by Century Motorsport, which is a team with a British GT connection, Nathan Freak squad, and the car of Shane Stoney run by Quattro Motorsport, which had a pretty good first race because its sister car of Richard Evans won the AM part of the race. All these cars identical. They are 1800cc Ginetta G40s, 4 engines, rear wheel drive. They run on a Michelin treaded tyre, and although everyone has the same base car, different teams run them, or indeed you can just operate them as a privateer if you are of a mechanical bent. So the grid starts to take shape. And then 15 minutes ahead of us. It's not a set number of laps. The flag goes out the first time the leader crosses the line once 15 minutes are up. And the back of the grid, which is nearly in Chester, such as the size of the grid, forms into position. I think we might well be missing again.
I think Matt Palmer may not have made it back out. I walked past his car and it wasn't looking as if it was 100% ready to go, and that was just a cheeseburger ago, so I think he may not make it. There's James Kellett, and as you can see from his car, a very recent decision to rejoin the championship. It's not quite completed and certainly hasn't got liveried. Away they go. Shane Stoney from pole makes another good start. This time James Kellett tucks in behind him. Slightly better start from 44 with the blue highlights Max Bird. Maybe not. He's around the outside from 4th on the grid. Looks like he's going to push down to 5th. And he's all 6s and 7s on the dirt. So there's a degree of Ginetta Rallycross Championship going on around the outside. Luckily everybody rejoins. Max Bird hangs on to 4. Oh no, he doesn't. He's dropped down to 7th or 8th place actually. So that's a particularly rotten getaway from him for a second race in a row.
They've all survived Old Hall, and so far so good. Yeah, they've all got around Cascades okay. So Shane Stoney this time converts pole position into the race lead, tries to get away from James Kellett as they're around the outside line diving up towards Island Bend. Goes Gordon Butch, who proved to be very rapid in the earlier race too. Go for the grass. One's going to spin, one's heading toboggan-like for the barriers. That is Gordon Butch, isn't it, who goes almost as far as the tyres. Connor Grady is the one, the yellow car, facing the wrong way, and now trying to dig themselves off the dirt. It's going to be a challenge as Shane Stoney leads the way. Now, as we saw in the first race, once he'd hit the front, Stoney broke clear. Can he do it again in this race? As there is what was once an immaculate yellow car of Conor Grady. So Rallycross Ginetta working here.
The going may well be described as soft there.
Quagmire.
Yeah, yes. Definitely. Well, he got off that. I have to say, I didn't think he was going to escape that, because that is absolutely flooded down there.
That's one of the two, though. There might be another one still up to his axles in mire. Meantime, race leaders head up Clay Hill for the first time. Shane Stoney leading the pack. Clock ticks on down then. And is he getting away? No, he's not yet, is he? James Callett's staying with him, and as we saw early on in race 1, so Charlie Digby is in touch as well as they round Druids, this double apex right, road drying all the time, and then it's down towards Lodge Corner where the road drops away. So Shane Stoney, 2 lengths clear as he comes down towards the end of lap 1.
But he's not building that advantage. Charlie Digby in 3rd place off his first racing podium in the first race of the day. Down the inside, one of our battles for the teams, Morgan Quinn in car number 12. We had a massive battle from about 11th on down to 18th, 19th, all the way through race 1. Wheel to wheel. On the inside is 13. Who's that?
That's James Kellett.
Oh, it is James Kellett.
Because he's lost a place to Digby, and now Conor O'Brien has got past him as well. Yeah. So James Kellett today is going from bad to worse. He's losing places. He's dropping down the order. So he was 2nd. He's now 4th. And then you've got Jerry Nicosia trying to join in this battle pack as well. And also Max Birdie's on the way. There's a yellow flag at Old Hall because there's one that's rotated, but that should clear for the race leaders next time around. And there might be a yellow flag zone up the road here as well. As there, Kellett tries to fight back, but oh no, you don't, says Conor O'Brien. Elbows out, and O'Brien runs really wide, but he gets away with that. Thankfully, doesn't go wide enough so that he's in the dirt.
And our other mucky adventurer onto the dirt last time round has managed to survive. So Stoney is clear. Digby is gone as well. So Charlie Digby in 2nd place. You can't even... there he is in the beginning of the shot. And then car number 22 is Conor O'Brien hanging on to 3rd still from James Kellett, our race 1 pole sitter. Kellett's car looked a handful in the slippery conditions in race 1 and is looking no less of a handful here. Seems to be slithering around. Also seems to be riding a lot lower at the front than anybody else. That can't just be a trick of the light or the colours.
And he's losing touch all the time, isn't he? He's losing places, he's losing time. Max Bird there, 44, trying to fight back and get back ahead of Jerry Nicosia. And going with them as well now, you've got Alex Toth-Jones as well. He's another Ginetta GT5 regular, so there's another little battle developing for what's that going to be, 5th, 6th and 7th.
Yeah, and Sebastian Arenram is on the back of that with a white nose and the Swedish colours on the back of his car, and a little bump from race 1 on the centre of the rear bumper. Didn't do any more than that. Katie Milner next up. She started 10th. She's moved up to 9th place. So that's the long queue back from 3rd. And at the moment, 4th place still is number 22 car of Conor O'Brien.
And Matt Palmer, that we were concerned hadn't started, is making progress. He's up to 20th, having started 30th.
Gosh.
And there's ground to be gained as there, nose to tail down towards Old Hall. And very sideways, Conor O'Brien is going to lose it.
He's gone.
He's on the grass. And he skates off backwards. That gift wraps a place to James Kellett.
And everybody else.
And everybody else,
basically.
Quite right.
Yeah, anybody who hasn't been off is already ahead of him.
But Conor O'Brien amazingly had the traction to get back onto the circuit there, so he's gone tumbling down the order. Meantime, the survivors battle on, and the yellow flags are withdrawn as Shane Stoney is away clear up the road. Charlie Digby going with him. We've got 10 more minutes of the race still to run. If you survive, you might get 3rd in this race.
Well, this is the Ginetta GT5 challenge. I wonder if Shane Stoney didn't read it correctly and has entered a GT4, because he's certainly motoring away at a pace that nobody else can manage. 202.7 last time round. Next fastest lap, 203.4, so 7/10 of a second slower was the car in 2nd place of Charlie Digby just the last time round. Digby losing a bit of time, gone from 7/10 to 1.5 seconds behind at the line. That's 1st to 2nd. 3rd place is still Conor O'Brien. That's the white nose car.
No, it's James Kellett.
That's right, you're right. Yes,
O'Brien's
gone off backwards. So James Kellett.
Their 4th now is Jerry Nicosia. 5th is Max Bird. 6th, you've got Alex Toth-Jones. And everybody else behind as well, because then it is Sebastian Arenram, and then behind him is Katie Milner, up into 8th place in a circuit that resembles more of a rally stage now. Everywhere you look, you can find the witness marks of people that have been off the road, can't you?
Yes, and the more that goes on, the more it will look like a rallycross course as well.
So this is Druids. This is the battle going on now for 4th place. Jerry Nicosia under attack from Max Bird, who's trying to get up the inside, but he hasn't quite got the drive coming out of Druids. He goes to the outside line now. And almost with 2 wheels on the dirt, being given a big old squeeze is Arenram. That was by Katie Milner, who's managed to gain 2 places out of all of that. No, sorry, by Alex Toth-Jones, who's gained 1 place back. Now, what about round the outside? Did that pay out for Max Bird? No, it didn't. Still can't find a way through as the race leader goes by. Side by side, they come over the timing line and leaning on each other. Katie Milner on the inside line. And still alongside is Arenram as they drop down towards Old Hall Corner. Katie Milner on the inside, breaks late, goes through, yes, takes back the place, so that's going to give her 7th now.
Yeah, but Arenram is all over the back of her again. He was definitely doing more leaning on the way out, trying to ease her away from the racing line. And again, the battle for 4th continues. Jerry Nicosia with that orange stripe down the side of his black Ginetta, just clinging on. And Max Bird, who started 2nd on the race 1 grid, is currently lying in 5th place. His day has basically gone backwards all the way from the start.
And he's almost running out of road. It's on the grass, it's sideways. This is not going to end well for anybody. Bang! Yeah. Alex Toth-Jones had nowhere to go. Arenram's in the gravel and into Toth-Jones. Katie Milner is in the middle of all of that.
Yeah, at least she's on terra firma, as is Max Bird. But yeah, in that number 2 car, Alex Toth-Jones just knew it was coming his way. He had nowhere to go.
No, exactly.
Nowhere to go.
And nor did Arenram, who ended up going into him, very much ram by the end of that, because he hit the parked car. So it was all because of Bird getting sideways. Alex Toth-Jones ends up out of the race. Sebastian Arenram is out as well. 2 cars in the gravel. I'm waiting to see now whether we get any waved yellows and a safety car, because we've got half the race, give or take, still to run. 1 car there you can possibly live with, 2 not sure. Here it is again. Look at Max Bird. He gets it all sideways, hooks a wheel onto the dirt, and round comes the back. And Alex Toth-Jones thinks, left, right, which way do I go? Bang, gets harpooned, nothing he could do. And actually that whack may not have done a whole heap of good to the suspension. Arenram arrives on the scene and wallops him, and Katie Milner lucky to escape that as well.
Yeah, she was at least shielded there from any damage, but came to a grinding halt. And bizarrely, the man who started it all off actually survived relatively unscathed, lost half a dozen places in the ensuing carnage. Race leader comes across the line again, Shane Stoney. And from 1.5 ahead a lap ago, he's now 2.3 ahead. So in fact, he's opened up another, another 0.8 of a second in the last 2 laps.
And behind, some of the gaps have opened up anyway, having to avoid all the dramas down at Shallow Hills Corner. So the order now is Stoney from Digby from Kellett, Nicosia 4th, up to 5th. Out of nowhere has come Carlito Maraco. Into the top 6 now is Morgan Quinn. 7th is Ashley Marshall, and things are changing even as we speak, because dropping down towards Cascades, Ashley Marshall has now gone up ahead of Quinn.
Yeah, yes, top 6. And Carlito Maraco has just kept his nose clean. He was sort of battling for 10th, 11th, 12th in the first race, and that's where he started on the 2nd grid in 12th place. But there's been so much going on in front. By avoiding the carnage, Maraco finds himself in 5th spot. He is a long way behind Jerry Nicosia, nearly 5 seconds back. But the gap 1st to 2nd is 2.4 itself. Then there's another 3 seconds back from Charlie Digby to James Kellett, the race 1 poleman, in 3rd spot. So good little battle going on here. Carlito Maraco raced all sorts of different things in British Club Racing, but always with the green, white and red, the tricolour of Italy on the car.
But he needs a safety car to get back into the mix, really, as also does Nicosia, as now the challenge comes on the inside, dropping down towards Hislop's. You can see the yellow and black car of Ashley Marshall, the kitchen designer, trying to find a way through on the inside line, couldn't quite do it, but he's certainly got the pace now. He's right there on the back of Carlito Maraco as they come out of Knickerbrook through that right-handed. Now the climb up Clay Hill. And all the gesticulation inside Maraco's car saying, stop fighting me, work with me, let's try and catch Nicosia. The next one in stride
second place.
Charlie Digby from 2nd spot, absolutely.
Oh dear, just where you don't want to go off on the exit of Druids. Didn't look like it did a lot of damage, but you don't have to be very much offline when you're braking to be offline when you're braking. And Maraco is coming up behind him, and so is Quinn, and they both go by before Digby gets up to speed. So our 1-2 is now Shane Stoney, who started 1st, James Kellett, who started 2nd. So clearly not much has happened in this race.
No, quite, if only. So the lap chart continues to get ever more jumbled. The runoff area at Druids is like an A to Z of Cheshire now. There are so many different tire tracks on it as they fight for 3rd and 4th and 5th comes over the line. So now 4th, side by side, Maraco on the inside, on the outside line goes Ashley Marshall. And then wide in is tight out. Charlie Digby wants to buy into this as well in the yellow and green and white car. He's going to do 3 wide dead turns, and he's going to squeeze up the inside. He's got past 1. Go on, Charlie, up the inside for 2.
That's
job done.
Unbelievable. How did he get away from that? When they went 3 wide over the crest, I thought there's going to be 2 in the barriers and somebody in the middle will just about survive it. But somehow Charlie Digby hauled himself back up in front of that group. However, Jerry Nicosia is 3 seconds ahead of them in 3rd place. So, unfortunately, I don't think, unless Nicosia makes a mistake, Charlie Digby is going to get himself a 2nd podium in the day just yet. Scheduled to have a 3rd race, but whether darkness curfew and or the incoming beast from the southeast 3 makes a difference or not, we have to wait and see quite what happens. But Charlie Digby, podium in race 1 in 3rd place. Oops. And skittering back on just the skin of his teeth. That's one. That's again, that's Dennis Shell Oils, isn't it? Yeah.
That's Sammy Summer-Island. Finn, who did that in the first race, didn't he?
That's one of those where you're heading towards the barriers again. Just please stop, please stop, please stop, please stop. As you remember to get your foot off the brake and try and let the steering wheel do its job.
No, we
just did.
We've got time for certainly 1 more lap, maybe even 2, looking at the clock, depending on the pace of Shane Stoney. This is how Sammy Summer-Island got to the grass. Too quick into Ireland Bend.
Even in the dry, that was too much speed in.
Yes, and off he went. And off, and off. Yeah. Avoiding bits of car, avoiding mud, avoiding water splashes, avoiding gravel.
Those barriers really get your attention when you go off on the outside there.
So Summer-Island back on track. Shane Stoney's very nearly into race 3, such is the margin. He's 6.8 seconds ahead of James Callett, who goes across the timing line now. Jerry Nicosia pretty much on his own for 3rd.
What about Nicosia's lap times, though? He was about a 2nd slower than Carlito Morocco. Hang on, where's Digby gone?
Digby's off again, isn't he?
Again? Charlie Digby, we've lost him. There he is.
Had another moment. He's down in 8th place.
Yeah, okay.
And that's Morocco trying to have a moment, going very, very wide, coming out of Old Hall Corner.
Quite successfully having a moment. I don't know where Charlie Digby went. So Carlito Morocco drops down another spot, and moving up is the blue and yellow of Scott McKenna.
We will ask questions later. This is the one constant in this race. Shane Stoney, way, way clear. So winner early on in the day, pole position, leads the race, fastest lap of the race as well. And he's very nearly 7 seconds to the good as he comes up now through Britain's. There's a yellow flag waving at Old Hall because there's another one that's buried itself in the tyres there. And there it is, and that is yet again the flying Finn. And there's Matt Palmer, Matt Palmer, who went off in the first race and he's well off in the second, so that's going to be a suspended toe. That's what the signal from the marshal means, and it's also a tyre wall rebuild.
That's properly buried there, isn't it? That's taken out all the tyres at the end of the little gap, and that's what protects the marshal's posts. So,
and that is another one off the road, being driven by Adrian Campbell-Smith, last year's AM champion, the London trader, and he's stuck in the grass, so that's not going to get off there in a hurry.
And look where all the muddy tyre tracks on the exit of the corner lead, straight into his passenger door. So we've got 54 seconds. The checkered flag will be out, fortunately, because otherwise race director would have to, well, I think he's going to either have to red flag it or checkered flag it.
Let's see, because it would be an early checker, but the race director, yes, red flag. A red flag, not an early checker, means it will go back a lap. Right. It also means everybody has to stop racing and therefore slow down instantly, which might not be a bad thing. But it ends under a red flag. If you were not running at the time of the red flag, you're not kept in the results.
Now shown as checkered flag.
Right, okay.
So,
as in, it will not be restarted.
But there are red flags shown everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
So yes, they only had 30 seconds left to go, or 50 seconds left to go. So that was a no-brainer for the race director. You know, 3 laps to go, you're still going to have to red flag it.
But by throwing a red, not the checker, it means everybody lifts straight away rather than being at high speed near the incident zone. And the checkered flag means now it will not be restarted. We've got a result.
Plus, everybody comes into the pit lane. They don't have to cross the line because this lap they were on doesn't count. So, very sensible stuff.
So Shane Stoney wins again, 2 out of 2, and there, up to its axles in mud and everything else, is the car of Adrian Campbell-Smith, the W2R motorsport car. 1-2 race is what W2R stands for. Want to get off the mud is what he also wants to do.
Yeah, want a push, WAP racing, that is.
WAP access.
That's looking very, very much how my car looked on Friday afternoon in the Santa Pod car park. Buried up to its axles.
Let me just check my sympathy app. Oh, no, still no service. Shane Stoney, meantime, continues his day of days.
Yeah, 2 for 2.
Out of 2,
yeah, and that might be his total. He might have a clean sweep. However, we'll wait and see. We have been catching up a little bit on our slightly delayed calendar. So we were due to finish. Let's see how we're doing. What the time now? It's 2:48. We were due to finish this at 2:10. So we're still sort of 40 minutes behind. We caught up 10 minutes in lunch and caught up a couple earlier on, but this, you see, the tyre barrier repair, that's what's going to mean that we can't now start the next race.
And you also got at least 3 or 4 cars that we know of to hoik out of awkward places.
Mucky pups that need retrieving.
Yeah, indeed. So they're the hardy Oulton Park regulars. A busy season of Oulton Park, including, of course, historics for the Oulton Park Gold Cup in August, the British Touring Car Championship here later on in the season, and a regular diet of club meetings on most Saturdays. But for now, the volunteer marshals go to work. Which one do we drag out first?
Well, the one that's in the way. So 83 first, I think. Because if you don't get that out, then you can't drag the other one out backwards. And by that stage, they should both actually be drivable home. So should that, but that is a long way. I mean, look, you can just see how deep the furrows are from cars that haven't stopped.
More furrowed than the race director's brow.
Well, yes, that's a close call, I'd have to say, probably. But actually, everybody is doing their level best to help out. You know, it's actually the first stoppage we've had. So, hang on, we had one just before lunch?
Formula 3 was stopped early, but again, it was behind the safety car, and I don't think there was much point continuing to the end under that, so it was stopped early. So, the Proton Motorsport Ginetta GT5 Challenge winning drivers will hopefully head to the podium. Just to confirm the provisional result, Shane Stoney, the race winner from James Kellett, result declared at 5 laps. That was the last one completed by everybody, with Jerry Nicosia now good for the podium. Carlito Morocco 4th ahead of Ashley Marshall. Charlie Digby's Snakes and Ladders race, 6th in the end, ahead of Morgan Quinn and then Scott McKenna. Matt Rainbow, if only there was one, 9th, and Katie Milner 10th at the end of, as I say, 5 laps. That's the result declared. So let's have a look at the best bits of the second round of the Ginetta GT5 Challenge. It began with Shane Stoney starting on pole position. 1 or 2 a little bit keen away, and a bit of creeping, which resulted in some of them bogging down as the lights went out. Shane Stoney led the way down towards Old Hall Corner, and it was a lead he was never to lose. This time around, though, they got a bit more cavalier. There was more and more and more running wide and chewing up the dirt and bringing the mud back onto the road. But they managed to get around Old Hall safely, and they got around Cascades as well. But not for long, because then at Island Bend we started to lose them. Gordon Much was a casualty, and so also was Conor Grady, as both of them, toboggan-like, went skating across the dirt, although amazingly enough both somehow were able to get back into the race. Conor Grady, the man now with a gold account at the car wash, to try and make the car yellow again for race 3. As the leaders battled their way down towards Hislops, it was Shane Stoney up front, and there were battles on as a very, very sideways car rotated at Old Hall Corner. That was Conor O'Brien, who slithered off backwards towards the barrier. He did get going again, albeit a long way back down the order. And he wasn't the only one in the wars as well. Max Bird, looking for a way past Jerry Nicosia, would be another driver to explore the full limits of Oulton Park. He oh so nearly caught the slide, but in the end it was not to be, as around he went and wallop. He caught Alex Toth-Jones in the crossfire. Everybody else somehow managed to wriggle through the melee, and the battle continued. Charlie Digby had at least 2 offs that we're aware of. This was the first. This was at Druids. That dropped him down the order. Conor O'Brien fought back up the order, only to see ahead of him the Finnish driver, Sami Saralainen, fly off the road. He tobogganed his way back onto the circuit. Digby managed to hang on to his place pro tem from Ashley Marshall, and then off the road went Adrian Campbell-Smith, and up to his axles in mud, the car in a dangerous place. The red flag came out to halt the fun with only really half a minute to go. Shane Stoney being declared the race winner. That was never in doubt, and Adrian Campbell-Smith, having gone farming, gets his wellies out, and now will try and get the car back to the pit lane, hopefully in readiness for race 3, which should be at the end of the afternoon.
Yeah, and about 100 kilos of mud needs cleaning off the car beforehand. And the flatbed is there already, the rescue vehicle ready to tow cars out, to try and keep the meeting on track. And actually for the Ginetta GT5 Challenge particularly, the quicker that happens, the more chance they have of making their third race.
So I just had massive snap oversteer. So, oh well, it'll be good. It'll be.
James Kellett talking about his snap oversteer.
Yeah. Well, his car in the race 1 and in race 2 just looked too stiff for the conditions. And I wonder how much they were able to really make any adjustments to it for race 2. It looked a little bit better, but then it was a little bit less damp, so maybe there's something to that. Problem is, particularly as everybody's feeling a little bit more comfortable with the conditions in race 2, they're being a little bit more cavalier with the mud and the grass, and so what was a drying track actually ended up getting quite muddy as well. You can't get an awful lot of traction out of a mud slick.
So drivers ready, podium will be called in a moment, and as we say, all being well, there'll be a third race later on in the day, because still to come at Oulton Park there is Formula 3, then the second British GT race, followed by Minis, the Northern Sports Saloons, and more Ginettas. Although if you've had 2 races and you're the last one of the afternoon, there's always that hint of uncertainty and jeopardy. Yeah, exactly. There is 2 races.
There is a suggestion that the quote ex-Craig Lowndes car in the Northern Saloons is a paint job and not an actual car.
Yes, I've just seen that. Yes.
However, it doesn't make it look any less gorgeous.
No. So, drivers, I'm told, are heading to the podium. Adrian Campbell-Smith's car is out of the mud, and there, for third place, is the trophy.
Second place,
James Kellett gets called forward now for second spot. And yet again, Shane Stoney is going to own the top step of the podium.
2 second place finishes then for James Kellett.
And the fan club.
2 wins for Shane Stoney. Day is going well so far.
Indeed so. So Shane Stoney, 2 from 2 here at Oulton Park. Can he do 3 from 3? We won't know until the end of the afternoon if that race goes ahead. But for now, he has looked like the dominant driver. And for now, from Oulton Park, it's goodbye.
What's we got now?